If your business strategy is wake up, work hard, and hope everything works out, you don't have a business.
What do you mean?
You have a very expensive, very exhausting hobby.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I have worked with dozens of contractor couples who are incredible at what they do. They can build anything. They can solve any problem on a job site. But when I ask them what their business strategy is, they look at me like I just asked them to explain quantum physics.
I don't know.
Here's what's actually happening. You're confusing activity with strategy. You're confusing being busy with being intentional. You're confusing hustle with a playbook. And hustle will get you to a certain point, but it won't get you past it. Because hustle is about working harder. A playbook is about working smarter. And if you want to build a business that actually scales, that actually gives you freedom, that actually funds your life, well, you need a playbook.
We're playing this by the book.
So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you the difference between a hustle plan and a playbook, why most contractor couples are stuck in hustle mode, and exactly how to build a playbook using what I call the plan framework. Welcome back to Built for Two, CEO Edition. Hey there, I'm Kimberly Ferguson, CEO and founder of The Emerald Edge. And around here, we help husband and wife business partners in construction step out of survival mode and start building businesses that support their life, not swallow it. Today, we're talking about something that separates the contractors who are constantly overwhelmed from the ones who are actually in control, a playbook. And I know what you're thinking. I don't have time to sit around and write a business plan. I've got jobs to run. I've got clients to deal with. I've got a business to operate.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. That's exactly why you need a playbook. Because when you're constantly reacting, constantly hustling, constantly figuring out as you go, well, you're not building a business. You're just creating a job for yourself that you can never leave.
I gotta get out of here.
So let's break down what a playbook actually is, why you need one, and how to build it using the plan framework without spending 6 months writing a 50-page document that no one will ever read.
You don't have to do to gain respect around here.
So let's start with the difference between a hustle plan and a playbook. A hustle plan is reactive. It's wake up, see what fires need to be put out, work as hard as you can, and hope you make it to the end of the day. It's taking whatever jobs come in because you need the revenue. It's saying yes to everything because you're afraid to say no. It's working nights and weekends because that's what it takes to keep up. Hustle is about effort. It's about grinding. It's about outworking everybody else.
It's exhausting.
And don't get me wrong, hustle absolutely has its place. When you're starting out, hustle is what gets you off the ground. Hustle is what gets you your first clients, your first jobs, your first bit of true momentum. But hustle doesn't scale. You can't hustle your way to $1 million business. You can't hustle your way to more freedom. You can't hustle your way to a life where you're not constantly exhausted and overwhelmed.
I can't keep this up.
A playbook, on the other hand, is proactive. It's a strategy. It's a set of decisions you've made in advance about how your business operates. It's knowing which jobs you take and which jobs you don't. It's knowing how you price, how you communicate, how you deliver, how you handle problems. It's having a system and processes so you're not reinventing the wheel every single time.
No,
A playbook is about leverage. It's about making decisions once and then executing on them over and over and over.
Over and over and over and over.
It's about building a business that can run without you being involved in every single decision, every single task, every single moment.
I don't know what to do. I can't make decisions.
Here's the simplest way to think about it. Hustle is playing the game as hard as you can. A playbook is knowing which game you're playing and how to win it.
Get your head in the game, dude.
So, if a playbook is so much better than hustle, why do so many contractor couples get stuck in hustle mode?
Yeah, why?
Well, you're good at what you do. You can build anything. You can solve problems on the fly. You can figure things out as you go. And that skill has gotten you pretty far in life. So you think, why do I need a strategy? I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, right? But here's the problem. What got you to $300,000 in revenue won't get you to $600,000. And what got you to $600,000 in revenue won't get you to $1 million. At some point, your ability to hustle maxes out. You hit a ceiling. And the only way to break through that ceiling is to stop relying on hustle and start relying on strategy.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Also, you think strategy takes too much time, right? You're already working 60 hours a week, so when exactly do you have time to sit down and write a business plan? You don't have time to think about the future when you're barely keeping up with the present.
Precisely.
But the harsh reality is not having a strategy is what's eating up all your time. Every decision you make from scratch takes mental energy. Every problem you solve without a system takes longer than it should. And every client you take without criteria creates chaos. The time you think you're saving by not building a playbook is actually the time you're wasting by not having one.
Why are you the way that you are?
And oftentimes you confuse strategy with rigidity. You think having a playbook means you can't be flexible, you can't adapt, you can't take advantage of opportunities. But that's not what a playbook is. A playbook isn't a script you follow word for word. It's a framework that guides your decisions so you're not starting from zero every time.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Think about like a football team. They have a playbook. They have plays that they've practiced, but they don't run the same play every single time. They adapt based on what the defense is doing. They call audibles. They adjust. But they're not just making it up as they go. They're operating from a foundation of strategy.
How the hell are we supposed to know what
You
kind of t-shirt?
improvise, you overcome, you adapt.
So what does it cost you to not have a playbook? Well, it costs you time. Every decision you make from scratch takes you longer than it should. Every problem you solve without a system takes more mental energy. And every client you take without criteria creates more chaos. You're spending hours every week on things that should take minutes.
Oh, that's how they get you.
It also costs you money. When you don't have a pricing strategy, you underprice. When you don't have a sales process, you lose deals that you should have won. When you don't have a delivery process, you make mistakes that cost you profit. And when you don't have financial systems, you miss opportunities to save money and optimize cash flow.
It's 100% of the shots you don't take.
I've seen contractor couples leave tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars every year simply because they don't have a playbook. They're working just as hard as the contractors who are making twice as much. The difference isn't effort, it's strategy.
Is this some new kind of strategy?
And of course, it costs you your relationship. When you're both in hustle mode, constantly reacting, constantly stressed, you don't have the mental or emotional bandwidth to be good partners. So you snap at each other. You disagree on decisions because you don't have a good framework to guide you. You resent each other because you're both exhausted and nobody feels appreciated.
You give a guy a break.
A playbook reduces that stress because you're not making every decision from scratch. You're not debating the same things over and over again. You've already decided how things work. Now you just have to execute.
Execute Order 66.
And the big one, it costs you your freedom. So when your business depends on you hustling every single day, where do you find time to take a vacation? You can't take a day off. You can't step back and work on the business instead of in it. You're trapped. And that's not why you started a business, I wouldn't think. You started a business to have freedom. But without a playbook, you just created a job you could never leave.
My God, I cannot get a minute of peace.
So how do you actually build a playbook? I'm going to walk you through what I call the PLAN framework. It stands for purpose, leverage, alignment, and numbers. This is the exact framework we use with our CFO advisory clients. And it's how you turn hustle into strategy.
I need a plan.
So P is for purpose. Define your ideal client and services.
Define, not defined.
First step is get crystal clear on your purpose. And by purpose, I mean, who are you serving and what are you actually offering? Start with your ideal client profile. Who are you trying to serve? Not everyone. Not anyone who calls, but specifically who is your ideal client.
Whom Whom?
My name.
For contractor couples, this might be homeowners in certain income bracket, or commercial clients in a specific industry, or projects in a certain size range. When you know your ideal client, you can say no to the clients that aren't a fit. So this saves you time, money, and honestly, a lot of headaches.
It's a huge time saver. Thanks, gang.
So next, let's define what your service offerings are. What do you actually do? And a side question that a lot of people miss because they don't have this answer is what types of jobs are actually the most profitable?
I know what to do.
And just as importantly, what don't you do? I see contractor couples all the time say yes to everything. Someone needs a deck? Well, sure. Someone needs a bathroom remodel? Why not? Someone needs a commercial building? We can do that. And they end up stretched so thin, doing work they're not great at for clients who really aren't a good fit. A playbook says, here's what we do, here's what we're great at, here's where we add the most value. Everything else we refer out. That clarity allows you to get really good at what you do instead of being mediocre at everything.
But it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
And L is for leverage. Build systems that scale. So this is where you build the systems and processes that allow your business to scale beyond your personal capacity. Start with your sales process. How do you go from lead to signed contract? What are the steps? Who does what? What does the client experience? Most contractor couples don't have a sales process at all. They just wing it. Someone calls, they have a conversation, they send a quote, they hope for the best. But when you have a process, you're consistent, you're professional, you close more deals because the client knows what to expect and trusts that you know what you're doing.
I've got this totally under control.
So next, you want to document your delivery process. How do you actually execute the work? What are the steps from contract signing to project completion? Who's responsible for what? How do you communicate with the client? How do you handle change orders? How do you ensure quality? When you have a delivery process, you're not figuring it out every time. You're following a system that you've refined over time. That means fewer mistakes, faster completion, happier clients, and less stress for you.
Everything you need to know is in this book.
And finally, create decision frameworks. A big part of leverage is making decisions in advance so you don't have to make them over and over again. For example, create criteria for which jobs you take. We only take jobs that are at least $15,000, have a 25% profit margin, and align with our schedule.
Concise, to the point, and right on target.
Now, when a job comes in, you don't have to debate it. You run through the framework. Yes or no? Yes or no? Done. Create criteria for how you handle change orders. If it's under $500 and doesn't affect the timeline, we approve it. If it's over $500 or affects the timeline, we send a formal change order. Now you're not debating every little change. You have a framework that decides for you.
No more executive decision making for you.
And A is for alignment. Get on the same page as partners. And this is a critical step for husband and wife teams. When you're both in hustle mode, you're making decisions on the fly. You're not aligned. You disagree on which jobs to take. You disagree on pricing. You disagree on how to handle clients. And that friction in your relationship, well, a playbook creates alignment because you've already decided how things work. You've already agreed on your ideal client. You've already agreed on your pricing strategy. You've already agreed on your processes. So when a decision comes up, you're not debating it from scratch. You're referencing the playbook. What did we already decide about this? And you move forward together.
Because we haven't fought in weeks.
This is where most contractor couples find the biggest relief because they're not fighting about the same things over and over. They're creating a framework that guides their decisions, and that framework keeps them aligned.
Same page, same page.
And N is for numbers. Track your financial systems. This is where a lot of contractor couples fall apart too. You're great at the work, but you don't have financial systems. So you're constantly surprised by your numbers. You don't know if you're profitable until tax time. You don't know if you can afford to hire until you're desperate. A playbook includes financial systems, so you always know where you stand. So start with your pricing strategy. How do you price your work? Is it cost plus? Is it fixed bid? Is it time and materials? What's your target profit margin? When you have a pricing strategy, you're not guessing on every job. You're not underpricing because you're afraid to lose work, and you're definitely not pricing on gut feeling.
I've just been winging it.
You're not overpricing and losing jobs you should have won either. You have a framework that guides your pricing so you're consistent and you're profitable.
Now just watch the money roll in.
So next we want to set up tracking systems. So how do you actually track your numbers? When do you invoice? How do you manage your cash flow? What are your financial goals? This doesn't have to be complicated, but it does have to be consistent. You need to know your revenue, your expenses, your profit margin, and your cash flow in real time, not at the end of the year. Not when your accountant tells you. Right now, when you have financial systems, you can make informed decisions. You know if you can afford to hire. You know if you can afford to turn down a low margin job. You know if you're on track to hit your goals. And that clarity is powerful.
Sure, but how, Tommy?
So let me tell you about a contractor couple I worked with. They were doing about $800,000 a year in revenue. They were busy. They were landing all the jobs, but they were exhausted because they were working 70-hour weeks. They're fighting constantly, and they couldn't figure out why they felt so out of control. So when I asked them about their strategy, well, surprise, surprise, they didn't have one. They were taking whatever jobs came in. They were pricing based on gut feeling. They didn't have a sales process. They didn't have a delivery process. They were just hustling as hard as they could and hoping it worked out. So we built a playbook using the plan framework. We started with purpose. We defined their ideal client and narrowed their service offerings. They stopped saying yes to every job and started focusing on the work that they were best at. Then we built in leverage. We documented their sales process and their delivery process. We created decision frameworks for which jobs to take and how to handle change orders. We created alignment. They finally got on the same page about how their business operated. They stopped debating the same decisions over and over because they'd already decided how those things worked. And we dialed in their numbers. We set up financial systems so that they could track their profit margin, their cash flow, and their goals in real time.
She saved my life, and she understands me.
And most importantly, we set up a pricing framework so that we could ensure that the jobs that they did take were profitable. And here's what happened. Within 3 months, they cut their work hours from 70 hours to 50. They were making the same revenue, but they were working 20 hours less because they weren't wasting time on decisions and problems and jobs that they didn't need to take, things that could have been systemized. Within 6 months, their profit margins went from 0, i.e., they're literally paying to do a job, to 55% because we fixed their pricing structure and made sure that the jobs that they took were profitable. Within a year, they hired a second team so that they could do even more of their ideal jobs. And because they had a playbook, well, onboarding was easy. They didn't have to train an employee on every little thing. They just hand them the playbook and said, here's how we do things.
That's what's in the binder on every page.
That's the power of a playbook. It doesn't just make your business easier to run. It makes it scalable. It makes it sustainable. It makes it something you can actually grow without killing yourself in the process.
If I actually feel inspiration coming.
So let's bring this home. Hustle will get you started, but a playbook will get you where you actually want to go. Hustle is about working harder. A playbook is about working smarter. Hustle is reactive. A playbook is proactive. Hustle maxes out at your personal capacity. A playbook scales beyond you.
To infinity and beyond!
Here's the thing. Building a playbook doesn't take as long as you think. You're not writing a 50-page business plan. You're following the plan framework. Purpose, leverage, alignment, and numbers. Most contractor couples can build a basic playbook in 4 to 6 weeks. And the return on investment is massive. Less stress, more profit, more freedom, and a business that actually works for you instead of you working for it. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pick one letter of the plan framework and start from there. Maybe define your ideal client, document a process, get aligned with your spouse on one decision framework, set up one financial tracking system. Just pick one and start. That's step one. And once you have that, well, you can build on it. You can refine it. You can turn it into your full playbook. And if you're a contractor couple who's ready to stop hustling and start building a real strategy, let's talk. You can use the link below to contact us at the Emerald Edge. We help husband and wife teams build playbooks using our plan framework so you can scale your business without losing your sanity or your marriage. Your business should give you freedom, not trap you in endless hustle. And a playbook is how you get there. This has been Built for Two, where systems keep your business steady, strategy helps it grow, and building it with your soulmate makes the whole adventure worth it. Remember, hustle gets you started. A playbook gets you freedom. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in my next video.